how do people become abusers? So this is something that Alice Miller talks about. This is something that a lot of psychologists talk about. So where we have somebody who is disconnected from their human emotion, from their human sympathy or empathy. So if somebody was abused as a child, maybe they were really harshly spanked as a child, or beaten, right? Or maybe sexually abused when they were very small. What can happen psychologically is that person will disconnect from their emotions. They disconnect from their emotions about that thing because they're trying to protect themselves as a tiny little child, right? And so in order to protect themselves, in order to survive, in order to continue to live with and have to love this parent or person who is abusing them, but they're dependent on that person for their full survival, right? I mean, if that person doesn't feed them and take care of them and walk them, they're going to die. So they have to maintain a kind of emotional connection to this authority figure in order to get what they need to survive. So what they can do sometimes, a small child, this is like from psychology, is they cut off their link to their own emotions. So what happens is then when they interact with somebody else, right, with their own children, they have cut off their link to their own emotions. So they're like, well, my parent beat me, so, and I turned out fine, right? That's that kind of attitude. So now I'm going to beat my child and, you know, it's out of love, you see? So that kind of thing comes from when you have disconnected from your own emotions and you don't just like look at that tiny little baby and just think, oh my God, like how shocking and horrible would it be to all of a sudden like be hit by someone who's supposed to love you and protect you, you see? That would just like, I mean, it just explodes your whole understanding of the world when that happens to you as a tiny baby, as a tiny child. So that is another reason why people can become abusers. Now, that doesn't happen to everybody. Thank God. Otherwise, everybody who was raised horribly would abuse their children. Thank God, not everybody does disconnect. Some people really still maintain that connection and they can recognize, wow, this thing that happened to me wasn't right. This was wrong. I'm never going to do that to my children. Okay. So that is very powerful, but that is something that happens. And if that happened to you, I'm really sorry. And if your parents did that to you, hopefully this might give you some kind of an understanding of where that kind of abuse can happen. So when we understand where this is coming from, we can stop it. We can stop that cycle of pain. That's why this is so important and so powerful, right? So, and how do you do it? So how do you do that if you were somebody, if you're afraid, like, well, I got abused as a child and I don't want to be disconnected from my empathy and my emotion to other people, you can actually do an exercise where you go back in your mind and you put yourself back in that little teeny child's body and you experience that again. Now that you're an adult, you're strong, you don't have to be afraid anymore, right? Because you're a strong adult. And then like reconnect the emotions of yourself as a little child and feel that again, that fear, that pain. And you're like, oh my God, okay, now I get it. Now I really know why I'm not going to do this to somebody else, or I'm not going to do this to my own children. You see? That you actually have to do that exercise to reconnect to yourself as a little child if that happened to you.